Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Rama Rama Kunjabihari Jaya Rama Rama Kunjabihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Dodayam Udiraye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, the very romantic conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead. Nandanarayana Rishi, Sukutamuni, Mantamada Saraswati, the goddess of learning, by regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the favorite devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service to the personality of God, whose rays is transcendental sound, established the river of the God. So beginning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Preface. So, Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote the first canto of the Bhagavatam, he was actually in Vrindavan. And he had moved there, and anyone remember where he was living? Which temple he was living at in Vrindavan? The Radha Damodar temple. And the Radha Damodar temple has the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. Actually, a lot of samadhis. So samadhi is a resting place. So Rupa Goswami's samadhi is there, and then Jiva Goswami. Probably, I want to guess Sanatana Goswami also. No, actually, no. Sanatana Goswami is somewhere else. His is at Madan Mohan. So Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami's samadhis are over there. So if you go to Radha Damodar temple, if you ever go to Vrindavan, you must go to the Radha Damodar temple, and you'll see Prabhupada's room. It's still there, and ISKCON maintains it. And so ISKCON maintains their room for Srila Prabhupada, and then there's a samadhi there. The original deities are there, Radha Damodar, and now they also have Panchatattva deities over there. And so you'll see there is this little structure where Rupa Goswami used to do his japa, his meditation. And so it's the Bhajan Kutir used to be there. And then next to him is this resting place of Samadhi. So it's a very powerful place. There's a letter, I believe, or it's in there. Prabhupada wrote that the Radha Damodar temple is the spirit, the hub of the spiritual universe. So he said there's a lot of spiritual potency. So yeah, if you ever go to Vrindavan, you should go there. So that's where Prabhupada was when he was writing the first canto. And in the early 60s, Prabhupada had the first canto, he had it as 3 parts. And so he had them. He would do the first part, and then he would get it published, and then he would, he would actually go out and distribute himself. And even the paper, he would actually get it himself. He would get the paper. He would go to the publisher. And then he would get it published. And Rasika Pro will be starting from the Lilamrita in the afternoons, and you'll hear how like Prabhupada would just wait at the publisher's office, and the publisher, you'd see, here's a saintly person, here's a sadhu. So you'd actually give him some breakfast. And from time to time, Prabhupada would owe him money, but the publisher would just patiently wait for the money to come in. And people in India, they were able to see, here's a saintly person, he's trying to publish these books. And before that, the Bhagavatam was not translated into English at all. It was only, perhaps in Hindi it was there, in other regional languages of India. But English, hadn't been really translated to this extent, at least. And so Prabhupada, took on this monumental task of translating the entire Bhagavatam, 80 volumes, 12 cantos. And it was all based on the instruction of his spiritual master. The first time Prabhupada met his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he just looked down at him and he said, "You are a young man, a young educated man. You should preach in English." And Prabhupada took it to heart, for all his life. And later, one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, he said that, Bhaktisiddhanta told all his disciples to go out and preach in English, do it, just preach in English. And but Prabhupada really took it to heart and translated the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada was in renown translating the Bhagavatam, and it was just a very simple life. Yeah. And he used to give, I believe, 5 rupees per month for the room in the temple, the Radha temple, 5 or 10 rupees. I think it was single digits. It's 5 rupees. This is like few cents in dollars. And so Prabhupada, that was the perfect place for Prabhupada to translate, because when Lord Chaitanya appeared, and Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement, everyone's like chanting in the streets and all. But Lord Chaitanya also did another very significant thing, is that he asked the Goswamis to really establish the tattva, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So then the Goswamis, that's why they wrote so many texts. So so Jiva Goswami, he wrote the Sandarbhas. And so Sandarbha mean in English? Do you know, Radhika? Sandarbha, what does it mean in English? So, he wrote these Sandarbhas, and the Sandarbhas, what they do is they really establish the essential truths. And so one of them is like, literally one of the first ones was Tattva Sandarbha, but Tattva just means establishing what is true. And so, and then there's the Bhagavad Sandarbha, and then there's the Bhagavad Sandarbha, and so forth. So the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha establishes Srimad Bhagavatam as the best Purana, the best of the Vedas. And so the Vedic texts are really vast. There's all kinds of stuff in the Vedic texts. If you go on YouTube, you'll see all kinds of videos on all kinds of stuff of what the Vedas say and what the Vedas not say. And people argue about a bunch of stuff. And since the Goswamis knew that 500 years later there'll be YouTube, and people will be bewildered by watching random YouTube videos and Vedic knowledge by John Carmen from the West. And so Goswami was like, we got to establish the Bhagavatam, and we got to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality, got it. So that's why they wrote all these texts, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and Rupa Goswami, and Gopal Pada Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. But primarily, those three, they wrote a lot of these, this texts establishing everything. And so Prabhupada was continuing in that mood, and that even our previous acharyas, the subsequent teachers, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and so forth, they Baladev Vidyabhushan, they all had their commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so Prabhupada was continuing in the footsteps. And you will see Prabhupada in his purports, oftentimes he just cites many of the previous teachers. So he had Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Bhagavatam commentary, which was in Sanskrit. And so he would just cite it, and if you'll see if you read the Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami, you'll see that many of the things that Jiva Goswami has said, Prabhupada just sometimes just writes it in the purport, and he sometimes doesn't even say Jiva Goswami said this, but it's there, you know. And so Prabhupada was really citing the previous acharyas, the previous teachers, and I remember one example where Jiva Goswami says in the Bhagavad Sandarbha that yeah, God has to be inconceivable. If he's conceivable, how can he be God? So God has to be such that he's, at least to some degree, God is inconceivable, if not fully inconceivable. It has to be something. It has to be something mysterious about God, or something inconceivable, you know. And so Prabhupada says that in one of his purports. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that's in the Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. And so yeah, so Prabhupada is really following their footsteps, and of course, he's following his guru Bhaktisiddhanta's footsteps. Bhaktisiddhanta also spoke a lot. He wrote many articles and so forth. And Lord Chaitanya in his life actually did not really write a lot. He spread the Sankirtan movement, and he wrote the Shikshashtaka. And so it was really, the task was given to the Goswamis that you write, you establish this. There's a lot of established scholarly, and a lot of academic and scholarly value. But also another thing to see is that even though there is so much academic, sounds like a lot of intellectual, activity, it's all done in the mood of bhakti. So whenever we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, we do it not with the mood of like, I'm going to gain so much knowledge and I'm going to show those lousy YouTube video makers what the real truth is. But our mood should be like, I'm going to study the Bhagavatam as an act of devotion. Like, this is actually a process of bhakti. So I'm going to lovingly approach the Srimad Bhagavatam as a person, and I'm going to worship Srimad Bhagavatam by reading. So we actually worship the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, or the CC, any of the books, by just studying them, studying them, discussing them. So that's a form of worship. It's the same thing, same word we'll have for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, so Prabhupada's in Vrindavan. I should have brought it today. I forgot about it. I actually have one of the third part of the first canto that Prabhupada brought to the U.S. One of them, one of the books. He had a bunch of sets. And so I was able to acquire one of the third part of the first canto that Prabhupada brought on the ship. So maybe I'll bring it next week, perhaps. But yeah. All right, so let's see. So let's read the purport. And as we read the purport, please pay attention, and then we'll go back and discuss and see what stands out to all of you. All right, who would like to read, Bruce? Let's start reading one or two paragraphs. Did you see, Bruce? Can everyone see on the screen? Go ahead.
Preface. We must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmati Asya Yata, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels, even over less important issues. There is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural representation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society.
Any points that stick out to you in these? There's a lot in these two paragraphs actually. What stands out to some of you?
I like how we're all
It's British English, yeah. Yay and nay, yeah. Yeah, nay, it's for energy of living beings. Yeah. What else? Any other terms or any other points that stand out? That's good.
I was just appreciating this the unifying element of the modern world's dynamic of becoming more and more connected to the one world. I hate to say new world order, but seems like it's all moving in that direction. But without Krishna consciousness, there'll always be that pinprick, that will cause trouble unless we come to that common denominator.
Yeah. And Prabhupada's writing this in the 60s, India got independence, 47. And he's seeing, back then when India got independence, the Prime Minister of India very famously said he was very eager for India to grow materially. So he very famously said that the factories and the industries are the temples of modern India. So basically, abandon religion and go work factory industry, make India great again. So that was his mood. And that was the country's mood too. There's a video actually from 1967 or maybe 72, 20 or 25 years after India's independence. And it's a documentary, and they're going around asking people, what do you see as India's future? Or what do you want to do? It's been 20, 25 years, India's independence. And everyone's like, yeah, I want to make it big in this world. And there were one or two lazy people. They were like, it's okay, whatever. But others were like, we want to make it big. We want to make India great. So that was India's mood when Prabhupada's writing this. And Prabhupada's making this point that there's been rapid progress, fields of material comforts, education, and economic development. But there's a pinprick. And even now, like this, now it's like 70 years later after the 1960s. Or not, 70 years? No, 65 years. And would you still say there's a pinprick? Does everyone understand the word pinprick? It's like a problem. It's still a problem, more or less. It's like this little prick, this needle, and pricks you. But don't you hate it when you step on little one pointy thing? And everything's always going happy. You're walking, you're frolicking at the Plaza de Americas, and this one pine cone that you step on really hurt your feelings. And then you think, oh, this world is no good. But yeah, so everything is going good. That's what Prabhupada's point. And then one prick still there. And it will, sad news, bad news, it will always be there in this material world. And it's birth, old age, disease, and death. Those four basic miseries will always be there. But yeah, and so Prabhupada's pointing it out that this pinprick will always be there. And so yeah, it doesn't matter how advanced a society is, US or India, whatever. Right, you heading out? Safe travels. Haribo. Get your breakfast. Yeah, so that's why Prabhupada's writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, translating it into English. What else? There's one more term actually that stands out. Anybody else? That's covered.
It says spiritual communism. No communism.
But yeah, Prabhupada's writing this during the Cold War, and back then the whole world was divided between either you're with the US or with the Soviet Union. And India was actually one of the few countries that they joined the non-alignment movement back then. And even then, India was leaning more towards Russia, towards Soviet Union. And so Prabhupada saying, Prabhupada and many Prabhupada say that this idea of communism just doesn't make any sense, where everybody's, he's just saying, it's like, no, not everybody's not the same. People have different beauties and so forth. But they're same on the level of spiritual communism. And actually, I remember in Thomas Jefferson's memorial in Washington, D.C., I don't remember where. Oh, yeah, it's in the, what's it called? All men are created equal. What's that? What's that part of? Is that the preamble or something? Preamble, right? Declaration? Is that what it is? And then all men are created equal. And, when he wrote that, there was slavery in the U.S. So clearly all men were not created equal, at least on the superficial level. And so Hirana Maharaj points out that he says that it's a spiritual statement, actually, that all men are created equal. So same thing here, the idea of spiritual communism, that there will be differences. People will be different, and people will have different proclivities, they'll have different jobs or nature, or a different socioeconomic background, but they are equal in the sense that they're spirit souls. And so that idea has been there in history, and it's still there. People still feel it to some degree, depending on how materialistic they are or they're not. You ever see the proof?
In other places, Prabhupada makes the point that it's about ownership, that in atheistic communism, the state owns everything. But in spiritual communism, we recognize that the Lord is the proprietor of everything.
Yeah, we recognize that Krishna is actually the controller and not just us. Yeah. All right. What else? Anything else? Okay, we should probably go ahead and keep reading. Yep. Did you have one more point? Yeah. Question.
One thing that stood out was I think it said is like majority of society is not in oblivion. And I feel like physical and material sense we're not in oblivion, but a lot of us are in oblivion about who we actually are in our spiritual lives. But I wanted to ask, okay, you're like scrolling now. I don't know where it was, but it brought up a point of aphorism of Vedanta philosophy.
Yeah.
Could you explain that part?
It begins therefore with aphorism, Vedanta. Yes, the first verse of the Bhagavatam that's what Prabhupada is referring to. Janmadasya yataha. So that's there in the Vedanta Sutra also. And so And so the Bhagavatam is a direct commentary to the Vedanta Sutras. So Vedavyasa wrote all the Vedas, and then to comment on it, he wrote the Vedanta Sutras. And sutras are normally very short and succinct. And so Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, the conclusion of the Vedas. So these sutras explain the conclusion of the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra. But the Vedanta Sutras are too succinct, and people don't quite grasp it. So that's why the Bhagavatam was there, which is huge Bhagavatam, to comment on the Vedanta Sutras. So you'll see many aphorisms actually here and there in the Bhagavatam verses. So the first one, so it starts with Janmadasya Yata. The Bhagavatam starts with that. And actually the Vedanta Sutras, it starts with Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So Atato means therefore. So Prabhupada comments in how could something start with therefore? So he's saying that's why it's the conclusion. That's the Vedanta Sutras. It's the conclusion of all the Vedas is Vedanta Sutras, and then the Bhagavatam, that is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. So it actually explains everything.
Answered, but the first one
Jai begins with the J. That means the source of everything. And the one that begins with the To Brahmhimsi. Therefore, now that you have a human birth, take advantage of the Vedas. Basically, that's what those two terms mean.
Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demonic face of society. Yeah, please, together. Bhagavad Gita 7:6-1. Oh, is that Bhagavatam? Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is a God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is emanated, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty towards perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately so that simply by a careful reading, one will know God perfectly well. So much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as the concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary of the Vedanta Sutras by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step cautiously and not jump forward haphazardly, as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged that with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become a God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos.
That's quite the claim, quite the guarantee. 9 cantos. God realized. So yeah, Prabhupada is making this point that the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's also in line with the previous teachers that the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam is linear, study one canto by another. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, maybe it's not in the CC, maybe it's in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya had Gadadhar Pandit, he would read him the Bhagavatam, and Lord Chaitanya would really just relish it, and he would read this various pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, and Lord Chaitanya would say, "Oh, read it again, read it again." So there's no harm in actually going back, reading it again and again. And but yeah, it's but you go in krama, you go in order, and so you just read it straight up, and then by the time you come to the 9th canto, you God realized, and in the 10th canto, the 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of God, Sri Krishna. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments, one after another. Yeah. So the first 9 cantos are really there so that one can get to the point of understanding who Krishna really is. Because if one jumps to the 10th canto, then they can take Krishna and his activities very cheaply. Actually, as a matter of fact, when the British, when they came to India and then they learned about the various demigods and they learned about Krishna, they're like, what is this? They're like, how could you worship this person? Because they're coming from a Christian mindset and they think God is you have awe and reverence for God, and so they can't be anything immoral. God cannot do anything immoral. So they look at Krishna. They're like, well, he's a thief, steals butter, and then and then he hangs out with other people's wives. Like, what's happening here? And they worship him, and they're like, oh, these are barbarians. We gotta show them what the real truth is. Share Christianity with them. So that was their mood when the Christian missionaries came in the 1800s, and especially in the 1800s. And so actually you'll see a lot of the thinkers from India in 1800s. They're very Christian oriented because it had a huge influence. And as a matter of fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur almost became a Christian before he founded the biography of Lord Chaitanya. And actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls Lord Chaitanya as the Jesus Christ of the East in one text. And so it's out there. There's a lot of heavy influence in the 1800s on the thinkers. And even though there's a lot of thinkers who were in the Hindu school of thought, but they would still have a lot of Christian influence because of that. And let's see, so what else? Any other thoughts that stand out to you? John?
This verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj is interesting because, he brings it in right when he's like, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's to be in all the major schools and colleges. Because this is during his speech when he was in the Gorakuli, or the demon Gorakuli, and telling all the kids, the time is now to take up spiritual life. And they were like, well, we just want to play. We're just kids for love. And he's like, nope, it's right now, because saying I'll do it later, that is Maya. What? I pulled up the translation.
Oh, yeah.
Can I read it?
Yeah, sure,
okay, because I think it's important as far as having to do with preface. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete purification.
Yeah, I would dare to say one of the reasons why Bhagavatam is not in the schools, that we can thank that to our religious brothers from other religions and their poor-funded knowledge. Because as long as they're playing that sectarian game, people will be divided by religion. Yeah. And we see that when Prabhupada came and he was charged with, and therefore society at large won't be in approval, especially the secular government, to bring something like that to schools. But, the instance that illustrates that is in when Prabhupada gave to South India, and South India is a lot of Christian missionaries throughout the past. So there's a lot of Christians there. So a reporter was charged Prabhupada about how is it you're traveling all around the world promoting this immoral God who has been, stealing and going with other people's wives in the dead of night. But Prabhupada he just brought him to reality and said, without beating around the bush, he said, your wife also belongs to Krishna. So people forget the true position of Supreme Personality of Godhead, that everything belongs to him.
Yeah.
And therefore they're confused with rasa. Because they don't understand tattva, they're confused about rasa.
Yeah. And that's why Prabhupada insists that you got to study through the first 9 cantos and see actually the bigger aspect, not just the personality of Krishna, but also you see how Krishna has so many incarnations and so forth, and all is basically how he is God. And then you see his intimate form as Krishna. But before that, you gotta go to the 9 cantos and see how he is, the owner of everything and so forth. Otherwise the common man, common person is really bewildering. What's happening here? Any other thoughts before we go ahead?
Verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking this probably, that one should not be lazy to learn the philosophy of bhakti. One should not just depend on the sentiments. Because if you learn the philosophy, then your faith becomes firm and you know about Krishna's, the truth of Krishna's position. Then it'll be hard for someone to budge you from your faith.
Yeah.
But if you just depend on the sentiments, sometimes the sentiments may be there, may not be there, so you could be budged away. So one should. That's why first 9 cantos you learn the philosophy, then you get to
Yeah, it's crucial that one actually delves into some philosophy, and and as much as you can, actually delve into the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. That will strengthen your intelligence, because when there are countering arguments, or there are just doubts in general, you can actually think about it philosophically, or talk to others who are philosophically minded. Talk about it. Yeah, but also with philosophy goes along. What goes along with philosophy is our chanting or japa, because that really works on our false ego. The science of the Bhagavatam is the science of the false ego, the spiritual science that works on our original reason we are here. That we thought, all right, I could have some fun here. I can be the center of everything. So yeah, that's why japa is so crucial. In the morning, not just japa, actually, attentive japa. Yeah. I was able to spend some time in Massachusetts, and Nanda and I were talking about how just attentive japa, actually bringing the mind back to the holy name. And so when we chant, our mind goes all over the place. But when we bring it back, then it's more and more attentive japa, and that actually cleans our heart. As Lord Chaitanya says, Chaitadharpana margin, cleans our heart of all the misgivings, cleans our false ego, establishes the real ego where we understand that Krishna is the center and we are his servant. So japa and philosophy, kirtan, all that go hand in hand. So yeah, it's good to do all of those, and you don't really get into all of those at the same time. All right, let's finish the last paragraph. Who wants to read? Finish Radhika.
I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, but still I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society, and the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation, meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat. Bhaktivedanta Swami.
So yeah, this famous works of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the purport, you'll see Prabhupada very frankly and humbly saying, that there might be some, errors in the translation. In English, he says that English is my second language, and but it actually Kamhana English is really good. And so it's very humbly says that, yeah, even if, and the verse itself says, even if such literature is irregularly composed, it is, if it is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men, it is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. And it brings about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. So yeah, that's what Srimad Bhagavatam does. It brings about a revolution in our hearts. And we are able to go back to surrender to Krishna and establishes Krishna in our hearts. So yeah, that's the glory of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, when one studies the Srimad Bhagavatam from start to end, it actually establishes fearlessness in our heart, because everybody's scared, in this world. Like, everyone's scared to lose something, or they're just worried about what's going to happen next. How am I going to pay my mortgage, or how am I going to pay whatever. There's always some kind of fear or anxiety. So what the Bhagavatam does is you'll notice that as you study more and more Bhagavatam, that fearlessness comes because one starts relying and depending more and more on Krishna, and not on how much our bank account balance. And when one really takes on the anxiety of spreading Krishna consciousness, of preaching Krishna consciousness, when one takes on that anxiety, the CC says, Lord Chaitanya takes on our anxieties. So the more we take on Lord Chaitanya's anxiety, he will take care of us in various ways, and will bring us more and more closer to Krishna. So yeah, as we go about to start this semester, go on campus, yeah, we tell everybody, just yell at them at the Krishna lunch. Don't yell at them. But yeah, sure. Come and eat. Yeah, just every person, each prep. Yeah, this is a joke. Disclaimer. Don't do it. But yeah, just even being out there when people appreciate devotees, they make a lot of advancement. Just being nice to people, serving prasadam to them, then they appreciate the prasadam, they appreciate the devotees, and inviting them to the programs, and just being their friends, really. The Goswamis and the Goswami Astakam, that it says that, oh no, maybe it's in the Nectar of Devotion. Anyways, it's Dhira, Dhira Jana, something like that, right? So that they were dear to the dhiras, the sadhus, the good people, and the adhiras, even to the goons. So everybody would come to the Goswamis for advice. So the regular people would come, and even the ruffians, even the irregular people would come. Wonder what kind of advice they would ask. But they would see, they were just friendly to everybody, and they were kind to everybody, and they would just, gave good advice, and so everybody would come. So as followers of the Goswamis, we should also try to have that demeanor where everybody feels comfortable that they can come to us and just talk to us, reveal their hearts and so forth, and we can provide them that space. And so yeah, the Krishna House is for that purpose, the programs and everything. So this semester, to try and just create that mood where people can feel that they can come here, and they don't have to become, Hare Krishna, become part of a religion or something. They can just come here, be themselves, and just add Krishna to their lives, a little japa, whatever, meditation, japa. And the thing is, the beauty of the Bhagavatam is that, yeah, that's what Advaita Prabhu was pointing out. It's not a sectarian text, actually. It's a text on the science of spiritual life. And so, if one really it's Sanatana Dharma. It's the truths of this material and spiritual world. They're always true. It's not just something that's concocted. It's not just something that's just a dogma, but actually it's just true. And so when truth is spoken, nicely and pleasingly to people, then it actually affects their heart. So that's what we'll try to do with our programs and so forth, and just on campus. But yeah. That's all I had, and I guess I'll just bring up a few more points for Ishtabur. Well, a short Ishtabur, but yeah. All right, concentration about yeah. So the challenge will start today. You can leave. You have to be on campus at 10:30, so you can leave at 10:27 a.m. Just kidding. Head out at 10:15. That's early. I guess. And then just head out to the campus at 10:15ish, and Jonathan Prabhu will be managing on campus, and Advaita Prabhu is overseeing kind of Christian Launch and general management now. And Adi Prabhu is also along with Treasury, is taking up the superintendent service for the property. So, did you want to just briefly touch on that? What that means now?
What means 24/7?
24/7.
My door is open.
10800 charm.
So basically, I will just be taking over the hands-on, just any repairs. I'll be managing that, cars and equipment.
Okay.
If you have a burst pipe, do let me know. If there is some emergency, me and Advaita Prabhu will be dealing with it together. Otherwise, when it comes to moving cars around and making sure the property is all maintained, it's Advaita Prabhu still. So I'm just there to oversee the repairs, equipment, cars, and repairs.
So if anything's broken, they can
reach out to me.
Reach out to Adi
Yeah.
Prabhu. Okay. All right. And general management, Advaita Prabhu. Your broken heart. Aisha, please fix Anthony's broken heart. That's a good one. All right. What else? And of course, the ashram leaders there, Stephen and Tulasi are there. And so, if anyone has any issues in the ashram, you bring it up to the ashram leaders, and you can always, of course, come to me also. But they're the first lines of defense. And so, any issues, just come up to them. As I say, every semester, ashram life is like us being in a sack of potatoes. It's like a sack of potatoes. So you know how it goes. You have a sack, you put the dirty potatoes, and you shake it. Some water coming in, and so there's potatoes rubbing each other. All the dirt is gone. Or the rock tumbler is a better example. Right? Yeah, potatoes better. How many vote for potatoes? But the rock tumbler is better. You have the rock tumbler. You put the pointy rocks, and then they rub off, and then comes out all shiny. But Carly, you have something. Do you have something else? Yeah, go ahead. You cannot. Yeah. Oh, I see. There's different meters, and so depending on the length of the verses, there's few meters. At some point, maybe I could share it with you, but yeah. So depending on the length of the words, you can identify the tunes basically. Is that what you're referring to? The melodies, right? Yeah. The different melodies. Yeah. The Brahma Samhita meter. Like that. So you call it meter. Yeah, how many syllables? Yeah. So it just depends on that. There's few of them. Mainly we use 2 or 3. There's 3. And there's the Bhagavad Gita meter, which is very common in the Bhagavad Gita. Most of the Bhagavad Gita is in 1 meter. So many of the verses in the Bhagavatam are also that. And then there's a medium meter, which we did that one, Tadva, Visarga, like that. And then there's Brahma Samhita for the longer verses. So but you'll get used to it. You'll see how many syllables are there. What else? Anything else we need to touch on? Any other Ishtagoshi topics or Bhagavad managers? Anything else that we need to touch on? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. And for the mornings, we have the words on the screen. Please follow them, especially. And the mood of Krishna House is that it's geared for new people. And so even though you're such great advanced devotees, kindly stick to the words on the screen so that the new person in the room can follow. And even the last thing that we do, the Vanchakalpa prayers, and the English translation, just read from the screen. You can pay obeisances if you know the Sanskrit. If you don't know the Sanskrit, you can still look at the screen. It's fine. No one's going to shame you. And I'll be the opposite of Vanchakalpa prayers. But yeah, what else? There was one more. Oh, the cars. If you have cars, if you need to know where to park, or if you need passes, I've read the proof got the passes on this city office. So let him know. And during the Christian lunch especially, we don't want the parking lot full. So please make sure cars aren't parked there. Anything else?
Just overall reminder for all of you. This is your place. Your ashram, your Krishna. Order or here, hesitate to take initiative. It'll be a Maha.
On Labor Day, yeah. Yeah, the Labor Day weekend. Yes, we got some.
Usually those days are when we kind of take a closer look at things that we looked at. When people come, they're gonna know.
Yeah.
And if our place is to say whatever the preaching program is not gonna fly. Here. Doesn't end there.
Controversial about, oh, sorry, you want more?
Yeah, as far as campus coming on time is the most important thing because we're unloading the truck right there at 10:30 on the dot. We need that 10 minutes between 10:30 and then sometimes people show up at 10:37. There's already been a significant amount of unloading happening. So if you're not going to be able to make it on time at 10:30, please message. You have multiple options. The Krishna Lunch group chat, you can message me directly, or if you don't want to message me directly, message your ashram leader to message me. But otherwise, everybody is required to be there at 10:30 to help unload and required to be there until we are finished loading up and the truck is buttoned up and we're driving off at about 1:45.
And then, yeah, 2 p.m. we'll have the lunch here for the devotees. So 2 p.m. Rasika Prabhu will read from Prabhupada's Lilamrita. It's going to start from the beginning, from Prabhupada's childhood. So I encourage all of you. You know, Krishna is also, it's a place where we develop our relationship with Prabhupada. And, you know, many of you are not initiated yet, or, I mean, even if you're initiated, it's actually great to develop your relationship with Prabhupada as the founder Acharya. You know? And so just hearing more about him, his life, his personality, really, you know, really touches the heart. That's actually how I became a devotee, because I used to serve Krishna lunch to get a free lunch and free dinner. And then I used to take it from the campus. And then one day we ran out. So I was like, oh, what do I do today? So they were like, oh, you can come to the house to lunch reading. You can get your lunch here, etc. So I came here and, you know, I was like, oh. And they were reading the lunch. They were like, who are you? Like, I volunteered, you know. And so I came in. And they were reading from the Lilamrita, and it was so amazing to hear about Prabhupada's life. I kept coming every day. So then, and then that's basically how Prabhupada. That's basically how Prabhupada won my heart in his life story. And so for me, from then on, it's like, you know, Prabhupada would say, if I hear something Prabhupada said, I'm like, I'm not sure about it, whatever. But I said, okay, I'll accept what Prabhupada said. I'll still discuss it or ask questions. Well, since Prabhupada said, I'll accept it. So that was because I saw what kind of a person he is. So I encourage all of you just to be here for lunch. Have lunch. So ashram leaders will be kindly serving you prasadam, or unkindly. But, yeah. Eat that.
And remember, you're meeting them.
Oh yeah. Yep, those Indian men with mustaches. I was one of them. All right. Gotcha. Tamki. Shri Prabhupada ki.
night.